Hey guys, tonight we're going to talk about solving percent problems using proportions. Okay? Tonight, make sure you take notes on this, but you do not need to write a summary. Okay, so we're taking notes but not writing a summary. Okay, percent proportions. The most important thing is we know is over of equals percent over 100. Okay, so let's look at our first example. Your team won 19 of its 25 softball games. What percent did you win? So set up your proportion. Easiest thing to fill in is what goes over 100, since that's the percent. Well, that's what we're being asked to solve for. So x would go on the top. Well, what are you trying to find the percent of? So they want to know what is the percent that you won. So did they tell you how many games you won? You won 19 games. So that goes up on top, right next to its percentage. You won 19 out of 25 games. So 25 represents your whole, which is why it's right next to 100%. So in order to solve the proportion, cross multiply. 1900 is equal to 25 times x, 25x. Divide both sides by 25, and you get x is 76%. Make sure you put a label. Okay, let's look at the next problem. You bought a pair of jeans on sale. The price you paid was 80% of the original price, which the original price we're going to say is $36. So how much did you pay? So right away, set up your proportion. Again, the easiest thing to fill in is the percentage. So since they told us the percent, we fill in 80. Now we have to figure out what goes on the top and what goes on the bottom. The 100% represents the whole. So $36, which is the original price, is talking about the whole entire price. So that is what would go on the bottom. Some key words. 80% of tells you goes on the bottom, the original price. So the original price goes on the bottom. This 80% is talking about the price you paid. So that's what we don't know. So that's what goes up on the top. So solve it by cross multiplication. You can do that on your own. And then when you solve it, obviously our answer, we want to be less than $36 because it's talking about how much did you pay for something when you're only paying 80% of it. So we cross multiply 80 times 36, and then we divide by 100. So you paid, so x is $28.80 is the price that you paid. Right. We have two more examples. A survey of people who suffered injuries at home found that 32% of all accidents involved falls. If 80 accidents involved falls, how many accidents were there? So the first thing I want to do is set up my proportion. Easiest thing to fill in is the percentage, which they told you is 32%. Okay. Now we've got to reread it and see what is that 32% actually talking about. So a survey of people who suffered injuries at home found that 32% of all accidents involved falls. So that 32% is talking about accidents that involve falls. If 80 accidents involve falls, how many accidents were there? So that 32% is talking about the accidents that involve falls, which I told you there's 80 accidents that involve falls. So that goes up on the top. If you look back at the 32% and look at that key word of, 32% of all accidents. So the of goes on the bottom, which we don't know how many total accidents there are. And that happens to be the question. How many accidents were there? So again, to solve it, you cross multiply. So we say 80 times 100, which is 8,000. We divide it by 32. So we have, there was 250 falls. And 80 of them were caused by, there was 250 accidents. And 80 of them were caused by falls. Okay, let's look at the last question. In a class, 36 kids, or 90%, were wearing blue jeans. How many kids were in the class? So again, let's set up our proportion. Easiest thing to fill in is the percentage, which they told us is 90. So what is that 90 talking about? Key word here is or. 36 kids or 90%. So that means that that 90% is talking about the 36 kids. So 36 kids is 90% of what? So that goes on the bottom. In a class, 36 kids or 90% were wearing blue jeans. How many kids were there in the class? So logically, again, you want to think about, is the x going to be more or less than 36? 36 only represents 90%, so obviously it's going to be more. So do your cross products. So then there are, when you solve it, 40 kids in class. Okay. So that's how we set up proportions when we are looking at word problems. So again, just take notes on this. Do not write a summary, and then you guys are going to answer about 10 questions relating to percent proportions. Okay?